Hello, everybody, and welcome to Adobe Live. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are creating and streaming from today and pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. My name is Flynn, and I'm here with Dale Bigeni. What is up, Dale?
Not much, man. Just another beautiful day in front of the computer.
Well, the weather's not any good anyway, so hey,
Nah,
let's create some stuff and hang out. Um,
absolutely.
that's good to hear. This is part two of two-part stream. We did some stuff on Tuesday. If you didn't check that out, you're watching this replay, you can go back and watch that. Check it out. Kind of, we're going to pick up where we left off from there. If you're watching live, feel free to throw questions in chat, comments, whatever. Let us know where you're streaming from. And we're just going to hang out. We're here for about an hour, so kind of enough from me. Should we jump in? And thanks for sharing your screen, Dale. I saw you doing that
Yeah,
just as we were setting up. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to
we got caught
ask you to
up.
do that. We were busy. We were having a chat
So
in
good.
the pre-show. So let's kick that on. Let's check it out. We're talking skulls. This is like tattoo kind of inspired stuff. We talked a bit about
Mhm.
reference. We talked a bit about copyright and stuff like that as well. We got into like an interesting kind of space around like finding your style and
Yeah,
referencing things and the thin lines between that sort of stuff. It was a good chat on Tuesday. I
yeah.
enjoyed it.
I think it's an important chat and a very I think it's a chat that a lot of people need to have sometimes. I think just to give you the confidence and the knowledge, I guess, to move on with your art form, whatever it is. You know, it's there's no right or wrong, but there's definitely stealing and not stealing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
we can jump straight into here, and this is kind of where we got to last week. But I might just do a quick recap of just like
Yeah.
how we got here, just so that if people didn't tune in on Tuesday. So we basically built an artwork off a bunch of assets that we found online. I haven't really gone into too much detail about like going into a stock photography site. This was just typing in rose, skull, dagger in Google and just going completely from there. And then we spoke about like just building a mock-up out of it, I guess, and having like the power to kind of build it into this a form that you're kind of comfortable with, and that you're happy to build off, I guess. So this would literally be the bones of your finished artwork, pardon the pun, but it's definitely like this is where you would start and you could build off it. You could add the eye, you could not add the eye, you could change the handle, you could do whatever you want. So we talked about just building like a good starting point to kind of like build your artwork from. And then we went in and we started, we basically redrew, sorry, I just turned up the wrong way. We redrew that layer,
Mm.
that artwork in our own style, and you can see the overlay is quite messy. But if you have a look, the skull is where the skull was, but it doesn't look identical to what we drew. There's details where there weren't before. I think I've only basically used like the whole shape of the skull,
Mm.
the placement for the eyes, nose, and the teeth, and things like that. And then I just built off that. You can see the dagger is completely different. So the dagger was very ordinary, probably more like you would see in the real world. So we kind of got some flourishes on there and made it a little bit more fancy, added
Yeah.
some details in and stuff like that. But
And I love the like the diamond on the hilt of the.
yeah,
This is like a D&D dagger.
well, this is and this is the beauty of it, right? So that's what we're talking about. Like you've used the reference photo, and I mean, I can zoom in on that, and you can see that these lines do not like count for much once you start concepting. Like it's got a circle, we just completely changed it. And I think that's what the beauty of that reference photography, or you know, a lot of people can draw this stuff off their head, and it comes second nature to them. But we're talking about people that are interested in drawing, and maybe don't have the know-how or the skill set to know where a nose and an eye sits on a face. Like it sounds crazy, but
Mm.
it matters, right? It really does. Like there's an importance to getting things in proportion and things like that. But there's also that other side of it where we want to customize it and make it our own. So if you don't want two eyes and you want a third eye, nothing's going to stop you from putting one in the middle up the top if you want. So it's good to have those helping hands, which is the reference photography. But I think it's nice to then keep building off that. So you could go all day at like drawing, I guess till you get to this kind of level where you start doing like this is obviously pre-made just to cut a bit of time, but you can then see when I start going into the shading part of it, it's then again changing the artwork and the photography on a whole nother level, right? Like I've now got like this new depth and new shape to the skull. There's I've got cracks and details where they might not align to that photography, but that's where I wanted to put it. So you could start doing things like also doing things like adding little embellishments, I guess. Like you could have like drawing in white, you could be putting like spikes on it, like making like having different kind of, I guess, like different finishes to the whole job, like and continue building on like a custom artwork. So if I want all these little thorns or something, I could put them anywhere. You start making like a spiky skull or something like that, so you've now fully removed yourself from what that original photography looked like. I think that's the most important part. You're continually building as your layer process goes. But yeah, I think that's kind of like I'll show you just like the quick so the way I get asked a lot about the lines on my artwork, like why they're so clean or how I keep them so smooth. So let's just turn that layer off for a little bit and just talk about the drawing, not even the technique, the tools used. So we're going to just be using, I know it's really hard to see, but it's just the normal paintbrush. And then we talk about it a lot, but it's just the hard round pressure size. I do use Wacom Cintiq, so I do have like control over the pressure sensitivity, so that allows me to not have to switch sizes or pen shapes or anything, because I can get my thin and thick. I did it again, black.
And while we're going today as well, just throwing out, if you have any questions, if you're watching the live version as well, feel free to throw it in chat while we're rolling along. Behance is the one that we'll definitely keep an eye on, but we'll probably also catch it in YouTube. So throw them out there as we roll along.
Yeah, so that brush allows me to have that control over the sensitivity, getting fatter and thinner at the end of the lines, and that's always like a good, I guess it's just a good look no matter what you're doing, painting, drawing, digital or traditional. But yeah, I'll just use that pen and just start like going around. I'll always do my outline a little bit thicker just so that it stands out a little bit more from the inside lines, but then I can just go in and start thinning out my lines.
Yeah, and so you don't ever use like a tapered edge or something like that because you've got the pressure sensitivity, so you're controlling that on the fly as you're going through.
And I think so it's definitely controlled on the fly, but I like the thought of like you can make this kind of it sounds weird to say it, but you can make this feel like a computer did it and have it real like solid the whole way around, right? And you can have it like that, and it just looks like a normal stroke in Illustrator, I guess. Yeah, so it's quite crisp and stuff. But then I like the thought of the pressure sensitivity, because I can go in and kind of like lift and push the pen in, and I can get like these like variations in the line, so it kind of starts to feel a little bit more natural. Like if you look at that versus this side, like you can get like a little bit, and I mean there's other brushes with like textures and grains and things like that, but I do tend to stick to this side where I like it to be really bold. Like I like the bold versus like the thin lines. It's just like I guess it's a preference more than anything. But I also have been lately using, and this is something I saw another artist using, and I was just like, I had never really thought about it. But so the pencil tool kind of is a little bit more. How would you? Okay, let's just do this. So this is the. So that's the paintbrush tool, and then that's the pencil tool. So it gets like this almost like a pixelated edge on it.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the beauty of this is, so if I take this into, and I do it a lot, I'll outline my artwork in full in Photoshop, and then I might take it into Illustrator and do a live trace and get that greater outline and the major lines done into a live paint scenario where it automatically turns it from pixel to vector, basically. And I find that if I do it in this format, in the paintbrush, it's definitely just looks like a perfect line in Illustrator, like, you know, exactly like an Illustrator line. But if I do a live trace on this, Illustrator is able to pick up like these little imperfections, like the little, not all the little jagged edges, but you end up with a line that's more like, you know, a little bit more like spotty like that, where it looks like it might be done on like a textured stock or something, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But for this, what we're talking about today, I'm just going to stick to the clean, hard edge, hard round pressure size, because it's just, yeah, like I said, it's my go-to for most of my projects.
Yeah, but thanks for demonstrating that, because that's like a really good point. Like, you know, you might be doing like something like, you know, type that's meant to be kind of grungy or something, or you know, you're doing something on a, you know, it's going to be shown on like a textured background or something like that, and you might want that kind of rasterized or pixelated kind of look, or like it looks like it's kind of bleeding, or it's done, you know, you're very close to like a charcoal drawing or a pencil drawing or something.
Absolutely. And I think it's project, like, it's based on whatever that project is you're working on. Like, there's always like, I still get a lot of people that love that really crispy, like I think we were just talking about it earlier, Flynn, about like that Illustrator, like flat graphic, really clean, like they love that stuff. But I think the software itself has evolved so much that like you're able to take most of what you're doing in Photoshop now, live paint it, and it feels like you've almost got like a natural, like hand drawn, opposed to like really perfect lines. And, you know, Illustrator's renowned for just being crispy clean, so it's nice to have the ability to switch it up like that. I think I guess that's the best part about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I always think of like GTA graphics. If you remember, like that is what I think really like popularized, or was part of popularization of that. And I was trying to just think then, just as we were chatting about it, like why I think that was so popular. And yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, you're too young. I'm sure everyone knows GTA, but if you check out those graphics, they still kind of have that kind of graphics, like the really hard outline. Without like tapered edging, without texture and things like that. It's kind of flat color. And I was just thinking about that, and I was like, well, things like Wacom like didn't like, I'm sure it existed, but they were probably a little bit less accessible at the time, or you know, maybe you only real, like, you know, professionals were using them. It was a bit harder to get access to, whereas now, like, there's, you know, really affordable options and things like that for tablets.
Oh, definitely.
There's a really good Wacom, I think. Is it the Bamboo Wacom, I think? It's like a good entry level. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think they've even got, they've started to like bring prices down on a lot of their product. I guess when you get to the higher end, of course, it costs more, but they've got like creative displays now. So mine's a 32-inch, but I'm sure you can get like 13-inch ones for like, you know, under 2,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but like it's in actual fact, it's pretty cheap, considering back in the day it was like unheard of to be able to draw directly on the screen. I think you know, there's so many options on the market. I think a lot of those brands have had to what do you say, get competitive.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, you know, if you think back to that kind of time when you had things like Illustrator that you could, you know, create that really crisp kind of artwork, it was really attractive because it was like, oh wow, this is like computer made art. But you didn't have the pressure sensitivity because, you know, everyone was doing that with a mouse. I remember in design school, you know, how good I had to get at that pen tool. Playing with the anchor points and things like that.
But, you know, I follow a couple of guys on Instagram, and they swear by the mouse, you know, like they still haven't, or I mean, they've probably got tablets, but they still keep coming back to the mouse. They just find it much easier. And I'm talking like artworks that are like phenomenal in terms of detail. And it's like, I think about all the clicks you got to do, and anchor points and things. And it's
Yeah.
like, I can't say it's a negative. I think it's great that people are, working however they feel comfortable. It's like, that's the beauty of art, right? Do it the way that it feels best for you.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, so I'm gonna just go over a couple of these. I'm just adding like detail and stuff, but all this whole part that I'm doing now is all the same brush. I haven't changed the brush at all.
Yeah. And it's just the normal brush, right? Like it's like,
Yeah, just run of the mill.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing, like when you've got a Wacom or whatever, because you can manipulate it so much on the fly.
Yeah.
It's always fun to play with new brushes and see the new like Kyle T. Webster brushes and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
But I do find like a lot of the time, like when people come on Adobe Live, like they'll share, like they usually have one, maybe two of their favorite brushes, and they're like, I just keep going back to these brushes.
Yeah, I think it's just like I spend so long doing said artwork or styles and things like that. So it's like you just develop it's almost like a little weird relationship with it, where it's like you feel bad to go use anything else. I know that I've got like a whole library. You probably can't see any of them, but like there's a whole stack of folders in there and different brushes and stuff. And
Right.
I find myself from time to time, I might use whether it's Kyle's brushes or the True Grit stuff, because they got good brushes where you can like, you're minimizing your time by like, here's some cross hatching, like, it's. But I just find that I keep coming back to the same old way. Like even if I have to cross hatch, I might just do it like I'm doing it on paper. I might just go in and start. Oh no, I changed all my settings. Go back here. So I'll just go in and do the old. Oh, see, this is what happens. You touch other people's brushes and it froze everything.
While we're at it, I'm definitely mouse. I switched from mouse on I have mouse on my PC, and then I have trackpad on my iPad. It's amazing how how much the trackpad I actually use and really like. For, like,
really?
Pinching and zooming and all that sort of stuff. Not that I'm doing like a ton of design work, but I find it even better than keyboard and mouse these days.
And that's so trackpads with your finger, right? That's where you yeah. That's a whole nother skill level, I reckon. That's I don't think I've ever used a trackpad like the standalone one. Like I know there's the one on your laptop that everyone uses, but I think I've been using the tablet so long, it's hard for me to think of anything else at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just going in, and then I do all like this solid black, like these really dark black parts first. Like I get all these little blocks of shading.
And would you always do this line work in black?
Yeah, because at this point, like, there's a chance that I start drawing and I might say to myself, I might just do the outline and take it into Illustrator, and then I'll do the details as vector so that I'll do a live trace. But I think once you start getting into your illustration, if it starts getting too detailed, so like stuff like these little lines, I don't know, can you see that? Is that?
Yeah,
these
if
little
you
lines?
zoom in a little bit, I can see it, but maybe we'll zoom in a little bit for everyone. Yeah.
So these like little details, like they might just bleed out completely. Like you can go in and play with the levels and stuff in Illustrator, but there's a chance like if you put too much detail, you're going to be doubling up the work anyway. So what I would usually do is probably not do any of these. Anything that's tapered too small, I'd just get rid of all these little details and only have like the really big chunky blocks of color. So that way when I'm in Illustrator, I can then like add all these little strokes and stuff and I haven't lost them. But yeah, for the sake of this exercise, we're just gonna stay in here. So I'm just adding some of these little lines. I think there's a bit of lag. That's why it's doing that a bit jagged. There's a little bit of a delay there, but you can play with the smoothing of the brush. So you can see if you've got your smoothing turned up, it's usually pretty good. If you've got it all the way down, it's a little bit like it can be a bit rougher. it's a bad example because they all look pretty good to me.
I remember we did a stream with someone who remained nameless, and then we got to like maybe the last 5 minutes of the stream, and I was like, "Oh, do you ever use any smoothing?" And they were like, "Yeah," and I haven't had it on this entire time.
The whole time?
Everything. I didn't really notice, but they noticed. And they were like, I was wondering why I was doing
Like
really dodgy lines more than usual.
more than usual.
Yeah, check your smoothness. I've definitely had that where I've tried to draw and it's been like a bit laggy. So finding that sweet spot is really important.
I think I can feel it. It's probably a connection on the stream, but I can see that it's like got this tiny lag that's happening behind the pen. But it's definitely the process and principle still stands.
Yeah, nice.
All right, so I got this text I put in.
Yeah, Adobe Live every Tuesday and Thursday, folks, coming at you.
So I'm just going to keep drawing. If anyone's got any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Yeah, throw them in. I've got one around like fonts and things like that. Like, do you just jump in and try to like grab something that exists in the library, or like where would you? Because I assume that you would sometimes make it your own as well, kind of similar to what we were talking about before. But yeah, what's your approach to typography? You try to find the perfect one, or you just kind of like something kind of close to what I want, I'm going to draw over it and add stuff to it. Yeah, what's your approach?
I think for me, I like to I kind of like to build, for the most part. Like, it depends on the job, I guess, but I do like to try to find something that's in the right vein of kind of where I'm headed and build off it. Or sometimes, I guess it depends. If it's a design job, it's usually just like I'll find the right font, whether it's paid for or it's free. I just have a look at what suits the job. But for I guess something like this, I'd try to find like some references for script and, tattoo style artwork. But yeah, I generally do, even if I've got a font and let's just do an example. Let's just I think this is a conversation that ties into this pretty well. So if I type in Adobe, let's just use that. There's definitely a little bit of lag.
It's probably trying to stream at the same time as doing everything. So
let's just assume that that's the font, right? So I would still get this, and even if it's not perfect. Actually, this one, let's just use like a generic font. There's a lot of fonts there. So even if I was to have like the just like a generic font that I've chose, I'd still make another layer for probably illustrative purposes more than graphic design. I just make another layer on top, and again, this is up to each artist, but like I would just redraw it, and you can already see like that the letters are gonna have like weird curves and things like that. Like they're not exact because I'm not trying to be exact. So
yeah,
again, using it as like the bones of my project. So let's just do that. So like,
so it's still got that like hand drawn kind of look to it. But it's going to be like legible, like rather than trying to start it from scratch and draw it 100 times.
But then you can always like I guess you could go in and start doing things like chopping like parts out of that and making like a stencil font, or maybe it's just something completely different, like it can have just that as the A, or you want to thin out and then just start like building like different shapes and I guess options of that letter, because I know that I could use that font, but at the end of the day, that font, I guess I'm trying to point to it with my finger, that's not working. So this font used in this banner is going to look like I literally just got a font, slapped it in, and it doesn't fit the scheme of the work. I guess it's got like a completely different feel, and then I think it looks like you got a bit lazy. So I'd always try to like, again, reference or use another font as my starting point, and then build off that. I think it's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I really like that. I walked past a rose bush this morning and thought of the stream as well. I was like, oh yeah, check it out, roses. Yeah. If you're just joining us as well, we're here with Dale Bigeni. We're hanging out for a little bit longer. So let us know if you've got any questions in chat. Quiet today, but we're here, hanging out.
It's all right. We can just we can keep going on this.
And like, you don't have to tell us, anything that you're not allowed to tell us, but like, what sort of projects are you working on at the moment? Is it a lot of like freelance, made projects, like one-to-one kind of? I don't even know if you do commissions these days.
Yeah.
What's the sort of stuff?
Commissions.
Yeah.
I've got a few. I did a few black-related artworks lately, like motorbike stuff, which is
cool.
Always awesome. Like I like doing cars, blacks, anything kind of in that realm. I've got a few like painting projects happening, which is nice. Like we spoke quickly about it before. It's just like nice to be off the computer sometimes. It's just like a good break, I think, mostly for my eyes and my back. I know like it's probably not any better doing it, but it's nice to not be in front of the computer a lot of the time. So I've got there's a bunch of stuff going on. There's a whole bunch of NDA stuff, which is always happening. But yeah, mostly it mostly always is like custom kind of like commission work. I don't do a lot of I guess I try to steer away from a lot of those really big like drawn out projects that might consume too much of my time, because I do enjoy still doing like those merch designs for like smaller brands and things like that. I think there's a lot of heart in it, and I appreciate that a lot. I think everyone's starting from the bottom at some point, and it's nice to be a part of like building brands and identities for people, but it's also awesome to do big projects and see it in the real world. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag at the moment, a bit of everything.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it actually.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep going and adding all the details in. And in terms of shading, I kind of like, I would get it to a point where I feel like I've got all my shadows in, like all the dark parts, and then I might just start building like another layer underneath and putting just like, it's usually just another variant like of the gray or something, and then that will give it another level of, I guess, depth to the artwork.
Yeah, it's cool. And when this is like black and white so far, like, when do you start thinking about color? I'm not rushing you to get to color today. No. It's totally fine if we don't. But just curious about like at what point you start thinking about it.
I kind of think I've already thought about it before I even start doing that solid black, because I think if I do too much black, then I know I'm going to compromise how much color can go into a certain spot. But yeah, I usually just like, I plan it out kind of like at that second round of art where you're kind of back and forth with the client or or with yourself even, and you're like, okay, where do I want to take this? Like, how far do I want to go? A lot of my career has been based off black and white, so I kind of have this like luxury of people assuming it's going to be black and white, but I like to kind of shake it up and try new colors and color schemes and things like that. I also do just, I don't know, I really do just enjoy trying to make it work in like a monochromatic like look, I guess. I think it's just like, if you can make it work in black and white, like there's a bit of skill in it, I guess. Like it's not just like black and white. I think you have to consider like a lot of like where those shadows are, and does it feel like there's a foreground and a background and things like that. But yeah, definitely it's thought out in about like that second round of like refined artwork time, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And do you ever send like your source files to clients, like if they ask for it?
I never kind of like have a problem with it. I think like at the end of it, it's their artwork, and you know, I feel like they've paid for the whole, you know, the whole ticket. I guess they shouldn't just get like one flat image. I guess like if I give them a source file, the only thing I just worry about is, you know, something being manipulated after the fact, and you know, reproduction not looking great and then it looking bad for me. But no, I usually do. I usually hand everything over. But yeah, so if I do like a grey, let's just say this is the colors I'm choosing. Just gonna add a bit more. Oh, then like highlight all those, well, because this is on one layer, those greys.
How did you highlight them? Did you do color, like select color or something?
So if you do, is it command? So if you do command and click on the layer thumbnail, it will just select everything in that layer. So say I can select all the black, which is above it, and then I can select the gray, which is below, and I can just have that like as its own layer. But then I'll just go in here, go down the bottom into the bottom of your layer palette. There's the like the solid color fill, and I just fill it with solid color, and I'll leave it the gray that it is. Delete the layer underneath, and then I've got like the ability to change that color like really quickly. Like it's if we end up doing like the skull has, you know, maybe it's if I go up here, do the same thing. Maybe I'll put like so I would color all this. And I think that's the best thing about layers. Like if you build them right, like you know, you're at this point where you're like, oh, I need to start coloring it. I can kind of be a little bit rough with it, you know, like as long as it's falling behind those lines and there's enough color underneath those lines. It's not like I have to be real careful either. So I could just do all this skull, this color.
So you would put in planning that, you would put your like outlines all on one layer.
Correct.
And you would put your shadows, like as soon as you start doing shadows, you would put that on another layer. So would you put each color on a different layer? Would you get to that point?
Yeah. So I would leave, I generally like, after I have created the artwork in full, I'll always do like a white base layer, which is like I guess a silhouette of the artwork, and just have it white. So I'd have a white background just in case if I do send it to a printer or something, and it's got all the right layer breakups, I guess, because they need a base color sometimes to make other colors pop off a black shirt, or, you know, things like that. So but yeah, doing this and then, you know, selecting that again, create a new solid color layer. And so now I can, at any point, I know it's really small and I hate talking about my layer palette sometimes, but up here in the layer palette, I can just go in and, you know, or if it gets sent to client and they're not happy with the colors I choose, nothing's going to stop them from going and making like a, you know, a green skull.
Yeah, so you could quickly like change it to whatever, like, and it's you know, easy for feedback for you, or if you're dealing with like a printer and they're like, for whatever reason, that yellow's not going to print well on an orange shirt or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're like, okay, cool. What do you want? And then you just change it and send it back over, and it's super quick.
Or hopefully, or in most cases, they've got an art department that maybe they don't know how to draw the picture, but they know how to manipulate layers and things like that. So it's I think it's nice to be I guess courteous to the client at all times as well with like the way you build these things. You know, some clients are well, they don't have any technical, I guess, knowledge of like the programs or anything, but I've dealt with a few in the past and just recently where they're quite happy to, you know, if I hand them over a full layered PSD file, they'll make it work. So yeah, it's nice. It's a real quick way to work. Like already, like I know, like it looks like a print ready file, like because I know there's a black on top, there's the green underneath, and there's the darker green, and yeah, like I said, I'd have another layer at the end of it all where it is it's more like, sorry, I'm just gonna draw it in. So like it would be like a layer that kind of like doesn't have any detail. It's only going to have like the shape of the greater outline. So like it'll be anywhere that the graphic goes. So what I'm saying is this red is my white layer.
Right. Yeah. And so you draw that again, or do you just take the...
No, once my artwork's finished, I can, because it'll have all these lines basically filled. Like, so all the black lines along here and stuff will all get filled and, you know, they'll all marry up. Then I can just like fill this whole thing as like a white layer. So that way it's got like one solid white layer underneath it. And if it's going on a black shirt or a darker shirt, you can always add a stroke to that white layer and give it like a little bit more of a border, I guess, that can pop out a little bit like there. But yeah, that's essentially like how I would do it. Even in Illustrator, it's the same context. Concept.
Concepts, yeah.
It's always going to be like a white base layer. Then the very top's going to be my black layer because obviously that's going to go on last. But there are those times where it's a black and white artwork, and all you're supplying is. And if you can ask up front, is it a black shirt, white shirt, where it's going? If the client tells you it's just going on black, then I'll just do my artwork in just white. So it's just one white layer, which is obviously like depends on the project always.
Yeah, and speak to your printer. And I guess like developing
Always,
a relationship with a printer too, right? Like
yeah,
to kind of
absolutely.
know what they're after, the process and things like that.
Yeah, because there's so many different ways that you can, I guess, work on these artworks now, and each printer has a different method, just like each artist, right? Each artist has a different method of getting things done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely this is probably the quickest way that I would do it. Shading wise, I only ever really rely on like some tapered lines, like maybe it would be a few more bunched up, like to give it a few extra lines like that, and then I'd rely on like them darker colors to kind of fill the rest of that shape in.
There was a question I missed. Here we go. When we were chatting about colors, have you ever done reso printing?
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard of reso printing.
Good, because I don't know what that is either. Maybe you could let us know in chat.
What is that? It sounds interesting. Like, is it a different way to set up the colors? Is that what it's about?
Yeah, let us know, chat. But yeah, what did I have another one? Do you have a go-to color when it is time to color? I'm going to answer for you, and I'm going to guess that it's red.
No.
Oh.
You know what? For the longest time, you would have been right, but I really like black and yellow as a like, if it's got to be like a colored artwork, I really enjoy like black, yellow, gray, white, all those colors together. I think red reminds me too much of like, I think when I first started, I used to do a lot of it. So it's like, it's become almost a little bit boring to me. So not to say I don't like red, it's just like I've broadened my horizons. I definitely think black, yellow, white, and grey as a combination looks really good. Like, says me.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of yellow.
But it's got to be like, like sunflower yellow, like where it's like a little bit like, like more red into it, like not a real bright canary yellow. Is that making sense? Like,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how colors can, like, especially if you do something for a long time. There was a period of my life where, like, the two like projects that I was working on, both the branding was all red and only slightly different reds.
variants.
Like,
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
almost the same red, but they weren't the same red. Like side by side, you could tell they were different. Even I could tell they were different. And yeah, I remember like moving on and creating like our own brand for something, like a side project, and I was like, not red. Like I just,
just
it can't
anything
be
but.
red. I can't have
Yeah.
like a third project that I'm looking at every day that is red. Like I'm
But
just
it's
done with it.
and it's funny because a lot of people base their color choices off like actual reasoning. For me, it's just like
Subjective.
I'm just like I just cannot look at it anymore. Like I don't want to look at it. But I know what you mean. Doesn't red, like, it also invokes like anger. Like it's a they reckon like in a retail space or like in supermarket world, like there's not a lot of reason to have red because it's meant to be proven to make people like feel anger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the grocery store? Just going makes me angry.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what.
I don't need.
the
I don't
colours
need
are.
to see red. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry about it. That's is Coles did all right, didn't they, with their branding?
Yeah. So Rezo printing is like digital screen printing.
Oh, okay.
It's a clarification.
I don't think is that. Are we talking? Is this in like? Is it in Australia? Like, do we have that in Australia?
I assume so, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But you've definitely done screen printing, right? Like a lot of
Oh,
the
yeah,
shirts that you would
absolutely.
have done tons of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I just when I hear something like that, it's I like to know there's new options out there. But I wait till someone or a client is the one telling me that they want it done, and then I'll go look further into it.
Yeah.
So
So
maybe
more
I'll-
clarification.
Yeah.
Their understanding is that you can scan in your images printed in black, and then you can reprint it layer by layer in color. So yeah, it sounds a lot like
wow.
screen printing.
Okay, it definitely sounds new to me. Like I could be wrong. It's probably definitely not a new like a new version of printing. The world moves too fast. It's hard to keep up.
Sometimes things are like renamed as well, and you're like, oh yeah, I know what that is. I just didn't know the cool kid term for it. Get off my lawn. It happens all the time. So we've got about 10 minutes left, everybody. So with us today, hanging out with Dale Bigeni. And again, if you've got any questions, you want to tell us about a printing process that we are not aware of, let us know in chat.
Yeah,
and we'll scratch our heads.
But we'll definitely we definitely will take it on board because I like to there's always something new and there's always a better way to do everything, right? Like there's no be all end all when it comes to this stuff. I think like I'm very aware that there's an ever growing industry, right? Programs get updated, kids get more skillful than the old guys.
Yeah. And hey, I got another question for you because we're chatting about like getting away from the computer and doing other projects. So what are your thoughts around being a specialist compared to a generalist in your work? Big esoteric question for you. Save the hard one for the end.
I think I'd much prefer to be a specialist. I think, and the reason being would be that like if you're a specialist in what you do, you don't have to deviate from that skill set. I guess like no one's going to force you into something you don't want to do. Where if you start to be a little bit I guess am I even answering this correct? What I'm trying to say is that I'd much prefer to do a lot more of what I love doing and what I'm good at than having like I guess the ability or the want to do numerous amounts of things that would stress me out. And I think whether it's online or not online, for me, I'm only ever drawing what I'm comfortable drawing. Does that make sense? Like it's
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, that's. But I think there's a time and a need for both, right? Like I think as you're starting a career, well, you can't really be a specialist if you're just starting, right? Like you're still finding whether or not you are, I guess, confident enough and I guess like ready to just commit to that one thing. You're always learning a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a whole nother thing, right? Like stepping out of your like comfort zone and doing something kind of new or kind of adjacent. You know, and having to like reach out to friends. And I guess that's why I like having like other friends that do like, might paint or something like that. We're just chatting about printing, right? And it's like, oh, I've never heard of Rezo printing. Like, who do I know that does that? I might ask like what the benefits are. Like, is it cheaper? Is it faster? Is it, more efficient? Is it more environmentally friendly? Is it something that's done locally? That sort of stuff. But yeah, it's cool to get out of your comfort zone. Try.
Definitely. I definitely try to, but I somehow end up a lot of the time back, drawing skulls and things like that, which is fine. Like I have no problem with it. I guess I enjoy doing it enough that like it's never a problem. Like it's the comfort zone is always welcome, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole process of the what we kind of have gone through here is, I think with this artwork, what I'm trying to get across with this whole project is that this started as 3 images, as like Google found images, but we're able to go in there and create. So now we've got this version of the art compared to where we started. I know it's not finished, but that's fine. Let's turn on the original mock-ups. So like that versus that, like, are you gonna like, I think you feel pretty confident and proud of yourself when you look at it like that, where you can look back on it and go, okay, that's where it started, but this is where we got it to. And we've used our own details, our own color options, our own flair, like I've changed the jawbone to have these like a little bit of like an edge to it. I think it's cool if you can really like get into something and make it your own. I think if you're learning and you want to upskill, I think this is the best way to do it. You could definitely go to drawing classes and things like that, and upskill that way as well. But I think this is a nice way if you like, you just want to practice drawing skulls, just find some cool ones online and look at artists that you respect and you like, and have a look at where they might see detail belonging, or like how they'd treat the frame of the face. Do they knock out some of the teeth? Like, look for things that really make it your own. But like it's not, there's no shame in referencing other people. I think if you're going to do it on a personal scale and post it up and it does kind of start to resemble someone else's, maybe you should credit them at the same time and let them know that you were inspired by them, because it's quite a nice feeling. As an artist, I know I enjoy hearing people tell me that my art inspired them to do something. I never think it's like but it looks too similar, unless it starts being like, I did this project for this brand and I created it myself and it's a straight up copy, then there's a problem,
Yeah. Has it ever happened to you before? I've seen other artists like will happen on like Instagram or something like that. It's happened to some friends of ours I know. But have you ever seen your artwork like just pop up somewhere else and you're like,
Just
that's literally copied? Yeah, I'm talking about total
yeah.
copy and paste.
Actually, I've had it a few times. And it's always like not to my knowledge. Like it's obviously not to my knowledge, but
Yeah.
I've had like friends tag me in pictures and be like, "Hey man, this is really close to yours." I'm like, "That's not really close. That is my artwork." Like
Yeah.
they've gone in and traced it so well that like even to them they've probably convinced themselves that they created it, you know. And
Right.
it's crazy because I get it. I get the appeal and how easy it is to do that to I don't know, get a job across the line, but it's a big no for me, I think.
Yeah.
But for everyone, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think the idea behind this style is just having fun and learning, like, you know, even looking at that, like, look at the shape of the old leaf. Like, you could have followed that, but there's a way that you could have made it your own. So I just curved it completely. And, you know, that's the best way to learn, I think. It's like tracing, but not tracing. Like, I'm just using it as a reference. And that's the number one thing to take away, is that the artwork should be used as a reference, and yeah, definitely not as your own, I guess.
Yeah. And exactly tracing, right? Like if you're trying to like exactly trace it, you're probably not improving.
No,
Definitely not improving your style, right? Because you're literally just copying it. Plus, as well, if you're getting references from lots of different sources and you're one for one copying it, it might not merge together really well, right?
no, exactly. And that's what I mean. Like, that's what I spoke about on Tuesday. So those, like, originally, like, those roses and the skull don't really, like, there's no link between them. It just looks like it's a big collage, right? Like, it doesn't suit. So as soon as I redrew it, I put all these flares to make it feel like they live together, you know? Like, it's got the same sort of like line work and flicks on the ends of the shapes of the petals and the leaves, and the, like, everything kind of is tied in now. It doesn't feel like it's just a collage of photos, I guess. I mean, that's the goal, the end goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun process. I think you can definitely have fun with it like this.
And if we were chatting before about like printing or like having the artwork on a different background, if you kind of sent this to the client, they're like, yeah, this is awesome. Hey, by the way, it's going to be on a black t-shirt or something like that. What would you do? What would you do to change it? We've got about 2 minutes left today, by the way.
All right. So I think that would go back to that, having that white base coat underneath, like that one big layer. So it would form, let's just pretend the artwork finishes like this. So if I went in and had a white layer around this whole thing where I just drew, and that whole shape here became one big layer, then I'd just turn it white underneath the graphic, but then I'd have like a white stroke underneath, like off center that. So it'll be a white stroke off my white base coat, so that it's almost like it's got a stroke around it or something like that. So that way I don't even have to change my black work, because it's not gonna, you know, it won't matter because it's got a white under it. Unless I had text, then all I do, if the text was black underneath here and it said, then I just turn that to white, and then I've still got my white base coat. So I kind of, having that white underlayer or base layer allows me to, like, oh, you want it on a different color shirt? That's fine. Maybe they're going to put on a yellow shirt. They don't want a yellow skull. That's fine. All I got to do is go in there and say, okay, if it's a yellow shirt, maybe it'll look better with a blue skull.
Yeah.
You know, so I think the layering is important. The editability is, I think, very important. You need to be able to flex. So yeah, that's the short version, I think.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think that thanks for answering that and all the questions today, and hanging out and everything. I think that will do us today. I think we'll wrap up. So this looks awesome. Super cool. Hope to see you finish it. No pressure. I know you got a lot on, but I always love seeing the artwork like later down the track, kind of finished up and all that sort of stuff. It'll pop up somewhere.
It'll definitely pop up, yeah.
But no pressure. Cool. So follow Dale, Up by Dale, on Instagram. Check out his website. Some links down at the bottom of this event over on YouTube. So check it out down the bottom. Stay subscribed to us for more stuff. We'll be back next week. Awesome. Dale, thanks so much for hanging out with us, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you very much, Flynn. I enjoyed it as always.
Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Cheers.